right, welcome. The genesis, just for the audience, the genesis of this session was Danielle shared this very cool research study that Altman Solon did about the perceptions and the reactions of the entire ecosystem, so agencies, advertisers, distributors, to the total TV ecosystem. And so, Danielle, I wanted to start the panel with you to ask about what inspired Altman Solon to do this study, and what were some of the key inputs, if you will, that got you into the study itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So several months ago, my colleague Marianne Halford and I, we launched what was called the Global Total TV Advertising Study in both the US and in Europe. And what we were really trying to do was to try to understand exactly the synergies and the disconnects that exist within the broader TV ecosystem for advertising, and to specifically relate back to, as Ashwini said, the distributors, the brands, and also the media agencies, and to understand where's there room for greater partnership in the ecosystem, and also to understand investment strategies. So to look at, how are folks investing in their ad tech stacks in terms of different ad products, in terms of ad formats and ad inventory, and really bring it all together. We saw a dearth in the industry of just being able to look at the connective tissue between all of these different players, and we wanted to come up with a conversation piece that would really bring about some consensus in the room, such as what's happening today. To make this happen, we actually went out and interviewed one-on-one leaders from 70 different agencies in the US and in Europe, so those folks that were responsible for linear and digital buys. And we also spoke with the heads of ad sales at 60 different distributors in the US and Europe. So it was really quite a feat. And then in addition to that, we surveyed 200 different CMOs in the same geos to get a sense from them. So that's a bit about the genesis of the study. It's pretty comprehensive, and you can see it on our website. But one thing that I'll share with you, just in terms of a few of the takeaways. So on the agency side, for US media agencies, one thing that we found was US media agencies are really placing their money and their big bets, if you will, for ROI in three different parts from an ad tech and ad product perspective. One is around attribution-related solutions. This was a huge one. The second one was dynamic creative, and the third one was enablement solutions for shoppable TV. So this came out kind of across the board from the folks that we spent time with. 80% of the US media agencies that we spoke with mentioned that they were very invested already in different forms of ad formats. So if you think kind of non-traditional ad formats, we're talking shorter duration, we're talking interactive features. But what everybody said was that they're not necessarily seeing the uplift or the adoption from the brand side. And in our conversations with distributors, we heard the same thing. So definitely it seems like there's an opportunity here to have more conversation on the value proposition behind different types of emerging ad formats.
I actually have a question for Marianne. You mentioned ad formats, and we do have a leading distributor creator right here. So I was curious, Marianne, about what type of ad formats is DirecTV innovating with, especially for the converged landscape that we're heading towards?
So ad formats and innovative ads and bringing everything to streaming and TV, it's really at an inflection point right now where people are trying to be as relevant as possible, right? So at DirecTV, we understand that people pause a lot, whether it's set-top boxes or it's streaming devices, they're used to that functionality. So our product team actually learned about that behavior, saw how much time was being spent with pausing content, whether it's live or VOD, and we created an interactive, high-impact unit called the Pause Ad. And the pause ad is something that comes up on the screen. It's user initiated, it's non-intrusive, and it's very relevant because we can target it as well. And there's a lot of different options, but the cool thing is it's just at the beginning, right? It's gonna be so awesome with all this interactivity that we're talking about. And on DirecTV, it's used and it's used to quite often. We enable shoppability, we enable product features, you can do different slides to see different things, call to action, and we track all of that as well. And I know we have our version, but other distributors have other versions, so a lot of standardization is being asked for. And I know Group M is trying to lead the way with some of the standardization as more and more advertisers are leaning into the interactive high-impact unit.
Yeah, so Group M, Karen, as an expert practitioner and the breadth and depth of the budget that you see, what are some of your criteria? What are some of your recommendations as you weigh, investment across linear and streaming and the converged TV overall, plus the total TV that this study really looked at?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what we kind of look at is not necessarily just linear versus streaming. To your point, we actually look at it holistically. We look at all video kind of together, and really we do that because we're really looking towards the audience themselves. We're looking to find the audiences where they're actually viewing those videos. They may be on TV, they may be on their phones, they may be doing it streaming for whatever reason. And because of that, we kind of tried to figure out, okay, what audience are we trying to approach, target, and then what ads can we actually show to them that they would be interested in. So to Marianne's point, we did launch in January the Ad Innovation Accelerator. So it basically has all the major media holding company, all the major media conglomerates, a bunch of different tech vendors, and more are being added each day in the back end. And really we're looking to see how our clients, how our advertisers are really looking and advertising on each of those platforms, seeing what works, what doesn't work. Is there something that we need to change, something that we need to edit? What can we make those ads better? And then in the future, make it interoperable, make standards against it so that we can actually make it easier, not only for, all of the different partners to actually activate and build those creatives, but also for us as advertisers to build those creatives in a way that makes it cost effective and easier for us to do a lot of different ads at one time.
Yeah, so Danielle, to build on what Karen just mentioned, I remember reading in this study, I think you also asked about collaboration, what were some of the key themes that buyers and sellers wanted, what were they seeing? And the consortium that Karen mentioned, it's kind of pointing towards buyers wanting the industry to go in a specific direction. So what did the study, or are there any key highlights from the study that you could share?
Yeah, honestly, Ashwini, this was one of my favorite parts of the study because it just kind of showed where is there an appetite for consensus, if you will, amongst all these different parties. And I think what we saw was the emergence of two key themes. So one was the theme of enabling brand autonomy. And that really came out in the study around bringing the ability to bring your own data or to bring your own ad tech vendors and products to an agency relationship. That came out quite strongly. The other theme that we really saw was around brand education, and we tested it in different ways in our survey. So, amongst brands, we actually asked brands to share where did they think that their target demos would most be tuned in? Would it be across certain aspects of linear, certain aspects of digital? On the TV side, and we juxtaposed that and we compared it to actual consumption data, and we saw that there's a big education opportunity here, particularly where it gets into audience-based buying, to be able to educate brands on exactly how audience-based buying works and where their audiences really are may be different than their perception. So the other thing that we really tested was a bunch of different challenges which exist, and I think many of us know, within the ad ecosystem for TV, trying to get a sense from each of the different players, what would be their mitigation tactic? Where do they want consensus? Where do they want that through standardization, through regulation, or through education? And so we looked at a lot of different challenges and saw that there really is quite, I would say, specific tactics that brands, distributors, and agencies are looking to use for different challenges. So it's a broader conversation, but there's definitely the appetite.
Marianne, I guess I'm going to build on that, because as a leading distributor, how are you? What kind of better collaboration would you like to see? And how are you seeing like the fast channels? There's so much coming at a buyer right now.
There's so much. There's so much.
What are we supposed to do? Can you please tell me?
Well, Karen hit on it too about treating video holistically, number one, right? But here's the thing. There's a lot of opportunity out there, right? There's so much opportunity. So advertisers really need to understand the trends, understand the consumer behaviors that we're all talking about, and so much more. The study is amazing. And basically follow those consumers and those viewers, right? So there's a couple of consideration points, right? So there's oversaturation and there's subscription fatigue right now going on. So we all know about fragmentation. There's so much. There's more than ever. You can watch whatever you want, wherever you want, however you want, on devices and programs, you name it. And then, subscription fatigue. I can actually have a conversation with a family member right now about all the subscriptions and like what I actually do. They understand it. So people are being more conscious. They're asking the right questions. They're budgeting their subscriptions. Do I have to pay for all these different things? And they're understanding the fact that they can get a lot of their premium content with fast channels and then the different AVODs, right? So that just gives us more opportunity as marketers and advertisers to target these people with addressability as well, right? And that's another solution. So addressability is when you really go after a specific target. So we, as marketers, you guys all try to find that Karen or Dan, all those attributes around this particular consumer and your target audience. We can help find that, especially in this fragmented marketplace, with the addressability, and then adding the programmatic technology cross-screen to really identify your target audience and make sure that ultimately it's relevant. The third thing that I would say too, as far as a consideration too with this marketplace, and then just the overall streaming and TV services, basically live programming, right? So live programming is the most engaged type of programming out there, whether you're watching it on linear or streaming. We're saying that 67% of the US actually watches live programming. You can see the streaming services, as they're gaining more and more traction, is leaning into live programming, especially on the sports. We're hearing a lot about sports, live sports. DirecTV, it has more sports than anybody right now on the streaming side. But all the other big streaming providers are also leaning in on sports too. And this is where consumers are most engaged with the live programming. So there's a reason for that, and there's a really big opportunity to grow scale there as we move into the advertising side of it.
Yeah, sports is definitely the live programming right now. Yeah. I have a question for Karen around automation, but then I would love for Marianne, you and Daniel, for all of you to react to this trend around automation, because those of us who've been around and did the programmatic stuff, it's all through a pipe, but that is forcing the buyer to be smarter about, it's not dumber, it's actually more stuff, more data, more strategy, more intelligence. And the same thing on the sell side. The publisher really has an opportunity to really discern and decipher and share specific stuff back. And so, Karen, I guess I'll start with you. How do you anticipate automation to keep, or do you anticipate automation to impact how TV is bought across the board? That's a duh question, but how are you seeing this evolving across all the different types of TV opportunities? Streaming, linear, fast, this, that, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think automation just generally is naturally going to happen. I think any channel, as it matures, as technology evolves, automation is going to help kind of move the industry forward and also all of our processes. Automation isn't necessarily a bad thing. It automates, more of the manual tasks that we've had to do. It helps with things like, trying to figure out, what channel it was. Oh, we all know ABC is channel 7. Okay, can you make sure that channel 7 always says ABC? Little things like that used to be more manual is very helpful for us now today. And I think as technology evolves within the linear space, it will be a lot more helpful that how automation will actually come into play, especially now that we're trying to kind of merge together linear, streaming, mobile, digital videos all together. Automation kind of help us, okay, let's see, how do we buy, how do we sell, how do we put plans together more efficiently? All of that will come into play.
Well, as far as automation, I mean, we're seeing it, right? So it's, again, with the fragmented marketplace, it's just going to help identify the consumer and make your media dollars work harder and smarter versus just the old spray and pray. Like it's all about identifying the consumer and making sure that you're meeting them where they're actually viewing. So the automation part is helping. It's really bringing programmatic into the scaled big screen television world that it took so long to get to, but we're really there now, and it's still growing.
Yeah, I mean, just to build on that though, what do you wish the buyer would know more of before they came to DirecTV? So what you just shared about the broad spectrum of products that DirecTV offers. Not sure if everyone is aware of it or not aware of it. So, just like we would love for the sell side to be more informed of what the buyer needs, I'm sure the sell side is like, come on, why don't you do your homework before you call me?
We've been doing addressable since 2012, right? DirecTV. Yeah. So we basically have 2 minutes of inventory on over 110 different cable networks. And we have deterministic data, subscriber data, viewership data that we use. And then we also have first-party data that we can ingest, so all those attributes that you work so hard on getting from your Dans and your Karens. We can apply that there. And then we can also layer on third-party, too. So whether it's Polk or NCS or whatnot, lots of different vendors out there that we can apply to precisely get that viewer when they're turning on the television and then dynamically inserting your ad. So it might be a little bit more costly in the beginning, but at the end of the day, you're really saving a lot of money because it's less waste and you're not spraying and praying anymore.
I also think about automation when it comes to creative development as well. So if you think about the hyper-personalization of creative for TV, this is something that we definitely touched on in our study. But on the back end, in terms of what distributors and agencies are doing to make a data-driven buy happen, all of the things that you're mentioning, there's so much that is now so much more automated than before. I think when we did our study in Europe, we saw that a lot of European distributors and agencies are now really trying to catch up and are investing in efficiencies that in the U.S., like you said, have existed now for quite some time. This investment. But from the brand's angle or the agency's angle, to be able to actually create a campaign and to activate it, automation is in the data that everything from finding the right audience to taking a master creative copy and hyper-personalizing it for particular distribution.
Yeah, I want to leave some time for questions, but before that, Daniel, what were 1 or 2 things findings or trends that you saw in this study that you're like, I didn't expect that to happen, this is surprising that the US market is now evolving as such?
Yeah, 2 quick things. So we asked for brands to let us know what their criteria was to select a supplier, a partner for streaming inventory. And we kind of expected to see price and scale and ad experience on there, and those were the top ones. But what we didn't expect to see a little bit further down and a little bit kind of less prioritized was really the data-driven measurement capabilities. And this was a surprise to us, because look at all the investment that's happening from agencies, from distributors in measurement. So I think this brought up, this is more of a conversation piece. What other education needs to happen right now with brands so that they understand a little bit more about the process? That was a big one.
Yeah, I mean, measurement probably is the topic for now.
Education especially. Every single time I go into a meeting, they explain that they need a little hand-holding. They need a little bit, more insights into how to do it, how to execute, why they should be doing it, why they should be paying a little bit more upfront. What are the benefits? So it's a lot of education, and it's not just one time. And it's very interesting how much is needed.
Yeah, and also I would mention that not all clients are created equal. So some are way more data heavy. They understand all the in and outs of different measurements and currencies. And then there are some who will not go into streaming yet because they think it's scary. So it really just depends on, which client you have and how educated they are in what they want to target and who they are looking to reach.
Yeah. I want to move to audience questions, if you have any, Kevin.
We do. So there seem to be a lot of opportunities around reaching people who are watching on their big screen while also using their mobile devices at the same time. Have you seen any interesting examples, or have you seen ways that advertisers have kind of tried to marry the two experiences together?
We do a lot of cross-screen measurement, not so much just mobile, though, not necessarily mobile measurement by itself, but like we mentioned, the pause ad had the interactivity there. You can scan a QR code, and then we can measure how many people took action or interacted in that regard. But who saw it? Was it relevant to them, or wasn't just a run of? And then did they take action? Did they have brand favorability? So there's a lot of measurement aspect, and you should always be learning something as you're doing these type of buys anyway. But not necessarily mobile only compared to linear. It's more of the full holistic media buy or media spend overall.
I think that question kind of screams shoppable TV to me in a way, just like you're saying, because if you think about the interaction with the different devices, you're having a completely different experience, on your tablet or your mobile, going onto a brand's landing page and, starting to go through a buy flow. But you're still tuned in, perhaps, and the chance that agencies and distributors have to be able to kind of create those experiences and integrate them into the content as well as the ad products is a big opportunity here. So I like the question.
The next question is, how do you see some of these shifts impacting local advertising opportunities? It seems like there's the word fragmentation's come up a lot, but that's also an advantage, I think, if you're on the local side. So is that something that you have worked with?
Sorry, just local being fragmented?
Just local targeting opportunities, I guess, and capabilities that are being baked into or added into some of these different solutions.
Yeah, for sure. I think with local, especially, it's another type of targeting, really. So you're really reaching someone in a specific area. And so with that, there are advertisers who do I only want to advertise within one area. It's really helpful if you are, an auto dealership, if you are, a QSR, or if you have a limited edition product only in a certain area. 100%, it can definitely help.
Could Marianne, do you have anything to add in terms of the local aspect?
Piece itself.
Yeah.
That's, we sell our inventory as national, but we have the local breaks, if you will, around the over 100 cable networks. And it really goes back to the targeting piece. They're like Karen pretty much said it all. So you want, someone who is a travel enthusiast, who lives in a certain area, who, those are all layers. So the geo-targeting would be another attribute that you would add on to the target.
Just one thing about local. So when I think about local, I also think about SMBs, small businesses, and I think that these are brands. These are brands that are out there, and I think that the ways that distributors and agencies as well have tried to engage them over the past few years has been from creating different types of products like self-service type media buy experiences, and a big emphasis on education, so audience-based buys. So there's very much a way to integrate SMBs into the fold as being very relevant for TV. They don't have to be outpriced, for example, and it can be a simple experience for them. We're also seeing this in Europe as well in terms of this being more of a trend now.
I'm curious if on the shoppable ad front, that's another thing that's kind of been brought up. Is that something, I think, from an advertiser and a marketer perspective is really exciting because it's like, oh, right, we can finally get some direct interaction with the consumer. Are you seeing that? Is the adoption there? Or is the interactivity really being leveraged, I guess? Curious as how much it's being used so far.
I was like, should I start? So capabilities are there, but there is a few issues, or like kind of not issues, but really hurdles for people in order to do shoppable. Really, it's the cost to actually build each of those creatives, because you do have to usually build it a separate one for each platform you want to run on. Additionally, you have to then figure out the metrics on that side. Targeting and the inventory itself then becomes another cost, and like, can it actually run all the places you want it to? But that is honestly why we started like the Ad Innovation Accelerator, so we can kind of look at those trends, see, is there a way we can kind of move together all the different ad formats, make it interoperable, make it easier, get the learnings from each different platforms that say, hey, this worked on one, this may not work on the other, how can that kind of marry, and what are the best practices? Right now, shoppable is really hot. People want to do it, but I think people are also just kind of nervous because you're really only testing it on one platform or maybe a couple if you're lucky. And then, it is brand new, so the benchmarks technically aren't really there. There are some, but if you're trying to get benchmarks for your specific vertical within your specific demo, there may not have been enough campaigns that have ran with the exact same criteria.
So time for testing.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Karen, Danielle, and Marianne.
Thank you. That was
Thank
an
you.
exciting session. Thank you so much.